let's go to the CTV News clip, because it feels as though the Liberals are actively trying to sabotage anything that Premier Smith is trying to do.
Unbelievable.
And it goes, I think, to Ezra's theory that the Liberals would much rather campaign against Donald Trump as the economy killer than they would against Poilievre. Let's hear from Jolie, because she says everything's on the table, but I'll tell you, sister, it ain't. So if stay in your lane, lady. Anyways, I'll be quiet.
These tariffs are applied as he has threatened them to be, which we don't know the case. He hasn't announced that, you know, the specifics of it, but he's saying 25%. I was interviewing 6 economists, the top 6 economists, the chief ones for all the big banks the other day. And collectively, they said the hit to the economy, we're looking to the tunes of millions of jobs. You're looking at a 3% contraction and essentially an immediate recession. So it's in that vein, against that backdrop, I ask you about what retaliation would look like. Is your government prepared to cut off supplies of energy, for example, to the United States?
What I can tell you is everything is on the table. And that's the conversation we will have, the Prime Minister, Minister LeBlanc, and myself, with the premiers next week. And that's a conversation also I'll take to Republican senators and key Republican decision makers in Washington next week. Because this is indeed a decision that would be taken by President-elect Trump that would have devastating impacts on Canadians. And so for those who are watching us right now, it is important to understand that the threat is real and we're acting on it.
I think that's good.
And that's why I'm calling every...
Okay, I think that's good, because she said something completely erroneous there, and Premier Danielle Smith quickly corrected her. So she basically said everything's on the table, including cutting off the supply of energy to the United States. Energy is not within the federal jurisdiction. So she thinks that she is going to either outbound tariff Alberta oil and gas, Saskatchewan oil and gas, or maybe even, what do you guys produce out there? Electricity. Outbound tariff Ontario electricity. Premier Smith had a quick response to that. It's the last clip there, Olivia Efron. Premier Smith warning the feds to stay in their lanes. Danielle Smith loves a good lawsuit as much as our boss does. And she's pretty winning against the federal government. So let's hear from her.
Yesterday, Foreign Affairs Minister Melanie Joly talked about, was asked specifically if in negotiations with Trump, Canada would consider an energy embargo on the United States. And I want to, as leverage, what do you think, what do you make of what she said?
Well, first of all, it's oil and gas is owned by the provinces, principally Alberta, and we won't stand for that. And you should never, ever threaten something you cannot do. And I would encourage the minister to look at a map of where Line 5 goes. Line 5 comes down through Michigan to get to Sarnia. And then that feeds the bulk of the supply needed for Ontario and connects with Line 9, which feeds the bulk of the product needed for Quebec. And so if you cut off that line, you are cutting off Ontario and Quebec. So I would encourage the ministers to either understand how our integrated pipeline system works and start looking at ways that we would be able to practically respond, because there's no point in making empty threats that cannot be executed on. So there are other things, I'm sure, that that we'll all talk about collectively, but let's just remember how integrated our markets are with the Enbridge system, the TC Energy system, that we have a product going back and forth across the border every single day. And we cannot do anything that harms Canadians in such a substantial way. So I just don't take that as a credible threat. I'm sure that the U.S. administration won't either. So we should talk about things that we actually can do as opposed to empty threats.
If they were to proceed down that path, for some reason, what would be Alberta's response?
Well, they will have a national unity crisis on their hands at the same time as having a crisis with our U.S. trade partners. We just won't stand for that. And I don't think Ontarians and Quebec should stand for that as well. They shouldn't be standing by and listening while a federal minister talks about cutting off their energy supply. That's just not on. That makes no sense.
You know, Sheila, isn't it wonderful to see an adult in the room who understands the issues, opining
Completely.
honestly about it? And first of all, I just want to go back to Minister Jolie when she begins her response to Vashi Capello's with the phrase, everything is on the table. That phrase, thanks to Sellout Singh, has been completely bastardized because for the last several weeks, he has been stating all the time with his opening remarks, everything is on the table. Well, not everything, because, you know, Sellout Singh isn't going to cast a non-confidence vote against these Liberals, which he has proven over and over again. So everything is on the table. It's kind of like when you see a consumer product new and improved, it means nothing anymore. It's neither new and it probably hasn't been improved. But I will say this, Sheila, I think what the Premier is getting at, and I totally believe this, if Canada, if the provinces are going to get into a trade or tariff war with the United States of America, we are going to lose, and we are going to lose badly.
Yeah. Do you think, like listening to Premier Smith talk about energy issues, she is someone who deeply understands the issue right down to where a specific pipeline feeds to and where it goes, where the feedstock goes and where the refined product goes, or at least the upgraded product goes. She understands the entire supply chain, upstream and downstream on these pipelines. Do you think Melanie Joly even knows what Line 5 is, or Line 9, or when it was reversed, where it feeds to? She is running her mouth about stuff she doesn't understand, and her actions will devastate Ontario and Quebec. Can you imagine $2 a liter for gasoline in Ontario coming up because you don't have access to oil and gas through Line 9 and Line 5?
Well, first of all,
by the way, where is Doug Ford on this? He should be saying, "Oh my goodness, Melanie, shut your mouth, because you're going to cause economic devastation for the people of Ontario and Quebec." Where's the Quebec Premier? Actually, he's not too bad on this issue, but where is he to say the feds do not speak for us? They should not consider blocking energy exports to the United States because that will harm Quebecers. Where are these two premiers on this?
Well, first of all, Sheila, to answer your question, yes, I can imagine $2 a liter because we're only about 40 cents away from it right now. Oh, yeah. And secondly, what you said about Danielle Smith knowing the nuance and the nitty gritty of where pipelines go, where they lead to, and does Melanie Joly have a scintilla of that knowledge? And this is a fantasy which will never be fulfilled, but wouldn't it be great if a mainstream media reporter put Melanie Joly on the spot and said, tell us about Line 5. Tell us about, Show
me Line 5 on a map, if you wouldn't mind.
And, wouldn't that be a very awkward moment? So bad it's good, but we'll never see the mainstream media ask those kind of questions, folks, because, that's impolite. We don't want to embarrass blackfaces Liberals, well, the ones that are still with the party and still intending to run, that is.
Let's go to one more clip on Danielle Smith, where she warns that tariffs are likely to start on January 20th. So in the olden days, Trump, as one of his first jobs in office, approved Canadian pipelines, was like, let's go, let's trade with our friends, the Canadians. This time, he's going to slap tariffs on us. Let's go to this clip.
I think we need to be prepared that tariffs are coming. That seems to me I think we've all seen the biggest irritant to the United States are trade deficits, which they believe they have. I don't actually believe they have a trade deficit. When you take out energy, we actually buy more goods and services from the U.S. than they buy from us. I'm happy to make this national bank report available to anyone who wants it, that shows we actually have $58 billion in a trade deficit with the Americans when you take energy out. And that's why I wanted to have the assurance that the Americans are interested in getting more of our oil and gas, because I think oil and gas is going to be key to being able to get a breakthrough once tariffs do come in getting them off. I think if we maintain a strong partnership on energy, we make the case about how much the Americans benefit from that energy relationship. We demonstrate that we are a good trade partner, that we buy more goods and services from America than any other nation, and that we do buy more goods and services when you take energy out. I think we can make that case, but I feel like from what I have seen, that it's not my decision to make on tariffs, but we do need to be preparing ourselves for the fact that they're likely to come in on January 20th.
Sheila, I mean, I want to defer to your knowledge because you live out in oil patch country and your husband is in the oil patch. What I would be concerned about if I was a premier of an energy province like Premier Smith is with Alberta is that we know in the first mandate of Donald Trump, for the first time in 70 years, he made the United States energy independent. In fact, it was exporting energy thanks to the miracle of fracking. So I'm just wondering, when Danielle Smith says $58 billion trade deficit with Americans once you take energy out of the equation, given that the fracking miracle, it's going to be pedal to the metal, is that the wild card here in terms of the U.S. not needing Canadian oil and gas exports?
That I think is something that we will eventually have to deal with. And federal government with foresight would have been working on that for the last 10 years, the way Stephen Harper tried to do that before he was voted out of office. We had Northern Gateway, we had Energy East, Keystone XL. These were all pipelines that the Harper government was fighting for. It's also a reason why we should have listened to Japan when they pleaded for Canadian liquefied natural gas now twice. Instead, Justin Trudeau has told these countries that are coming to Canada saying, please, if you wouldn't mind, sell us all your bountiful natural gas so that we don't have to rely on Gazprom and fuel the Russian war machine. But he has said that there's no business case, if you can imagine that, for these $trillion projects.
Yeah, trillion with a T. No business case. Maybe Justin Trudeau doesn't know what a trillion is. Well,
it's because the benefits of that business would land squarely in the laps of Westerners, and you just can't have that. So, but it is something that we will have to deal with. But for now, like I said, the Americans are buying Canadian oil and gas at a reduced price because we are in a monopoly with them. So we can't get world market prices for our oil and gas thanks to Justin Trudeau. So while it is a hindrance to Westerners, normally it is a good bargaining chip with the Americans that they can buy Canadian oil and gas for cheaper than what they can produce it there for themselves. But that will change, especially with a pro-energy president being sworn in on January 20th. So one of the first things that Pierre Poilievre has to do when he is thankfully, finally, prime minister is to get going on export pipelines to get us out of that monopoly with the Americans.
Yeah. Oh, hi, it's Ezra Levant here in Toronto with an important message because we need your help. Independent journalism in Canada is under attack. Government censors, big tech deplatformers, and the dying legacy media are all working together to maintain exclusive control on the information you receive. They don't want you to hear other voices like ours, and they really don't want you to be informed and to think for yourself. That's why the work we do here at Rebel News is so important. Our on-the-ground reporting, independent news shows, and special content you won't find anywhere else. It's all designed to give you trustworthy information and alternative viewpoints so you can decide for yourself. We don't get government money, and we are not owned by some big global conglomerate. We're funded by people just like you, so please support independent journalism and help us continue our work by subscribing and becoming a Rebel News Plus member today, right here on the page. Go to rebelnewsplus.com. Members get instant access to all of our shows, invitations to exclusive events, and access to our premium content like live event footage and documentaries you won't see anywhere else. Only Rebel News Plus members can join the conversation by participating in the comments section of our new website. That way you can have your say too. More than anything, though, you'll be able to take pride in supporting real, honest journalism, and you'll help our talented team continue to do the work to push back on the establishment. We really can use your help. We need it, in fact. So thank you, and enjoy Rebel News Plus.